Okay, so I'm working on some problems from the 7.2 to 7.4 review. 7.2 was the one that dealt with budgeting. So there's no real formulas on this. It's more just using your good quantitative reasoning skills. And you do really have to read carefully. Like on this one, we're trying to get how much she makes in a year. And it tells us that she gets her check every other Friday. So for that one, I was thinking I would take that $1,820.36. Every other Friday means that's for 14 days. But then I could multiply that by the 365 days in a year to get what that would turn out to be. So that seems logical. And if we did that, that'll turn out to be about $47,459 and like 39 cents if we rounded to the nearest cent. Okay. All right, now sometimes in homework and also on the guided notes, you had to factor in deductions. You know, it might tell you that some of it is deducted for taxes and insurance. So that's what's going on this second problem. So here we know what the annual salary is. We're trying to get the monthly take-home pay. And that's because so often when we do our budgets, we have a monthly budget. So on this one, what I was thinking I'd do is take care of the fact that 28% of that, so I need to do 28% of the 45,100. So I'm going to multiply it by 0.28. And then when I do that, that tells me how much is deducted from her pay, okay, for taxes and insurance. So I'm going to come back in here and subtract that 12,628. And that'll tell me what her annual would be. So that would be 32,472, and that would be her take-home pay, but it would be for a year. So then what I need to do is take that 32,472 and divide by 12 to get what it would be per month, and that's going to turn out to equal $2,706 per month. Okay. All right, so again, on these, there's not going to be a set formula, but you're going to have to use good common sense. I think you'll be okay on question number 3 and 4. Just watch when you're reading every 6 months, okay? Both fall and spring, each semester. So all of those are twice a year. But sometimes you have some are paid twice a year and some are paid just annually, okay? All right, we did one like number 5. We've dealt with a problem like that several times. This one has Leslie sharing with 2 friends. So you have to be careful there because it says the rent and utilities are split by all 3 attendants. So this one and this one, you would need to divide by 3 before you go in and add up all the expenses. But then it's just simply going to be take her monthly income and subtract those expenses. The tricky part is that dividing by 3. And that was because she shares the apartment, and it tells us that the 3 of them split the utilities and rent equally. Okay. All right, now here's one. This is a graph that looks at the spending habits, the national spending habits for these various age groups. So this one is wanting us to figure out what percent this couple spends on entertainment, okay, on entertainment. What percent of their income do they spend on entertainment? And then asks us to compare how does that compare to the national spending habits. So 210 on entertainment out of their monthly income of 4,200. So we can take 210 divided by the 4,200. When we do, we get 0.05, which is a decimal that is equivalent to 5%. So that's what they spend. Now they're under 30, and when we go to entertainment and we estimate what the graph tells us, it tells us that that's pretty much right as much as everybody else spends, the national spending habits. So it's at the national average. Okay. All right. All right, now, this one we did in class, this type of problem. So here, you've got to, let me erase that real quick. All right, so on this one, you just got to be careful about collecting the information correctly. So on this one, you're going to get information for the old car and for the new car. Okay, you're going to take into account if there's any cost for buying the car, and there was for the new car. It was going to cost you $13,000. Then you're going to look at gas costs, and that's probably the one that requires the most work. So the old car gets 16 miles a gallon, and they drive 240 miles in a week. So we'll divide by that. That'll tell us how many gallons of gas for a week. But there's 52 weeks in a year, and we're trying to do this for 5 years, and the gas cost us $3.50. We could type all of that in to get what the gas would be. Then just do a similar thing over here. It's just over here. The new car gets 40 miles to the gallon, so you'll just change that one spot. Okay, then you're going to also tackle insurance costs, and you got to be careful when you read that. New and old car, 800 and 600 respectively, means 800 goes for the new and 600 goes for the old. And then don't forget, that's 1 year and we want 5 years. So remember to multiply by 5 on those. And then you also need to factor in the cost of estimated cost of repairs. So they're anticipating having to spend about $1,400 per year. Don't forget, there's 5 years. And then nothing for the new one. So then just add those up, and you can see which one would be least expensive, and you could subtract to find out by how much. Okay. All right, let's take a look at this one. These insurance ones can be they can vary quite a bit. So on this one, our job is to consider someone without insurance and how much they would pay, and then consider what they would pay if they did have insurance. And so all of this goes with their particular health insurance plan. And health insurance plans are so different. So these can really be different from one problem to the next. All right, so if we want to know without insurance, we would just add up what our actual costs were. But with insurance, we don't have to pay $740. We only pay the first $200, it says. So the copay for office visits, how much we pay out of the emergency room and the surgery, and then also we have to worry about our monthly premium. So for the emergency room, that first one, we would pay $200. For the office visit, we would pay $25. Surgery, we would owe the first $1,200 of that. Another office visit, another emergency room, okay. And then here, don't forget that you had a $700 premium, and that was per month. You're trying to get your annual costs, so you would multiply that by 12. So add up all of those to get what the costs would be with a policy for a whole year.